be eligible for 75% grant and a 25% town responsibility. So tonight, part of this is asking for that. The $4, we have to make 5,000 gallons a month as part of our proposition here. And in doing so, we have to increase our rates by a total of $8 for water and sewer. So basically, our rate for water would go from $10.01 for the service fee to $14.01 for the service fee, and our sewer rate would go from $9.01 to $13.01 for our service fee.
Now, this is the fee that will be charged to the customer?
Yes. So the customer would see a $4 a month increase in their bill per water and sewer portion.
So this is just a one-time, it's not based on usage, it's just a flat fee?
This, we could have done the usage as a flat fee, or we could have used it into the billed gallons per month.
Mhm.
It works out cheaper to do a flat fee. It would save the customer money
It's flat fee per month.
per month.
Okay.
Any additional questions? If not, I'll defer the remainder of this to Mr. Slater.
If you will take a look on page 19 of your packet, there is a survey that we took of various jurisdictions in and around the area: Rollsville, Youngsville, Franklinton, Odell, Franklin County, and then Louisburg. Most of these fees are directly related to development. They are historically have been absorbed in part by the town. In other words, we incurred those costs and we really didn't get any money back. Now, that's not all of them, that's just some of them. In other areas, we did charge fees, but we haven't updated those things in, much like Mr. Medlin said, decades. And we're really kind of doing business and in a way that's not very cost effective for the town. So in an attempt to try to bring us up to date in trying to defer the cost of some of these things, particularly as development comes to town, we were recommending increasing some of these fees. And they're not all fees. Some of these have to do with fines, and I'll go over them. I'm not gonna go over each line item. You're certainly welcome to quiz me if you want as you go through the list. I was just gonna hit a couple of high points. Some of this has to do with parks and recreation. We actually, in those particular areas, we increased the fees last year, and we recommend freezing those. So we're not going to increase those. I just wanted to make you aware that while we looked at it, we felt that the increase from last year was something worth retaining. Under the police, we have tickets that we issue, everything from handicap, loading zone violations, fire lane violations, that kind of stuff. We have an administrative fee for fingerprints. All of those we're recommending, they were nominal amounts in the past, like $5 or something like that. Well, nothing's that cheap anymore. So we're suggesting increasing those, particularly for violations. Some other minor fees: selling beer, selling wine, vehicle registration fees. All of that is, we actually have caps under state law how much we can charge. In some cases, we didn't charge anything. So that was an opportunity to try to redress those issues. There's a lot of stuff under planning and zoning, basically the role of the town as it relates to development. And when developers come into town, build houses, build shopping centers, all that kind of stuff, there's a lot that goes into it that the town actually does. Reviewing plans, making decisions, getting assistance from consultants and stuff. All of that historically we have in some ways gotten fees from, but mostly we haven't been getting enough fees or no fees at all. So this is an attempt to try to align our fee schedule to match what other jurisdictions are doing, because we're just losing out on money. And of course, the fact of the matter is that when we do that, the people who pay the difference are the citizens, when in fact, it should be the developers who are making the money off the deal should ante up a little bit more. So it's a little bit more equitable. The other cemetery lots, historically, we've been charging fairly cheap rates for those. We are recommending an increase in those from the past. I believe the schedule for the cemetery lots are in your packet, I believe page 20. We're recommending basically flat fees for resident and non-resident. Tap fees, that's what you pay when you tie on to our water system or our sewer system. Developers pay this routinely when they develop subdivisions. We are recommending going from $1,500 to $2,000. That's actually pretty cheap still. Although, you know, I think I listed in here Franklin County's tap fees. That does not, while it is true those numbers reflect their cost for tap fees, they have supplemental fees that they tie on to that. So it actually is closer to what we're recommending, the $2,000 number, to reflect what their costs are. So it kind of puts us in line so that it's more competitive. Under the electrical system, we've been kind of behind the 8 ball for a long time on some of these monthly fees for poles and backyard lighting, those kinds of things. Electric meters, we've never charged for, so we're attempting to pay for a fee for those. Subdivision development, we have been historically eating the cost on that, and we're talking thousands and thousands of dollars that we eat in order to provide the electrical infrastructure for development. Most places now either make the developer pay in its entirety or only are willing to contribute a little bit. And so this is our first attempt to try to realign that fee schedule. So we're talking that, you know, 25% is, I think, a reasonable amount that the town could ante up in order to promote development and yet still make the developer pay for most of that cost. Underground service, there's an attachment, I believe, on page 21 that talks about, you know, the cost of putting down underground service for individual houses. That's not a huge amount of money, but again, every little bit helps. Collectively, this is not all the fees that the town charges. I'm not going to suggest that to you. Did I go through every nook and cranny through the code book to find it? No. This is what this was an attempt to do is to get us off first base, to get the bulk of what we're confronted with, largely because we're dealing with so much development coming into town, to try to make it a little bit more equitable for the taxpayers as opposed to the developers, to balance those costs. If you look on page 24, I think that's 24. Yep, 24. You'll see the actual recommended list of the costs that we're advocating that the town move toward, and that's pretty much it. I know it's a lot to digest. You know, you're certainly more than willing. I'm more than willing to answer any question you have, but we at least wanted to get it in front of you so that you can kind of you know, see what's involved.
And I see from some of these line items here, generally, we're lagging behind.
Yes, you know, some of this stuff has not been touched in years. And it just because it, you know, it just never was, and it should have been. And, you know, once again, like so many other things in town, where it just did not receive the level of attention it should have, and so we're trying to right the ship.
Mr. Slater, you stated that we're not cutting off, you know, taking the bite out of everything, but is there anything in here regarding a fee for tampering with meters?
Not that I'm aware of, no. There's nothing like that. And I'm unaware that we have anything that speaks to that. I could be wrong. I'm not familiar with what the utility department has ever charged, if anything. It seems like to me that might be a criminal offense, but I would have to discuss that with the chief.
Okay. And then the other question I have, for cemetery on the hill, the fee is $250, but at
It was $100.
Yeah,
It's currently.
And now it's going to $250, and at Oakwood, it's going resident $750, non-resident $1,000.
$1,000, right.
why is there a difference in one cemetery versus the other?
I think historically is really the issue. The level of maintenance and care that Oakwood has gotten historically, it just requires a lot more resources. We just wanted to sort of move Cemetery on the Hill from what has historically been neglected to something where the town has taken a more active role to try to maintain and get into shape. It's gonna take a lot more money to do that, but I think to jump from $100, which is what we've been charging in the past, to say, okay, now we're gonna make everybody pay $500 or $600 or $700, that's kind of a big leap. And so I think the town, until we get the cemetery kind of more in shape, because it's still kind of primitive out there, it just needs to be incremental, and I think that was our thinking. I think it would be a lot, particularly in its given state, to sort of charge people the same thing you charge at Oakwood when the condition of the cemetery is radically different.
I have a question. How often do you all maintain the cemetery on the hill?
Actually, this past year was the town's first effort at going in there and cleaning it up. There had been some question of ownership that has sort of was the barrier, even though I know it was kind of a gentleman's agreement between the owners of the cemetery and then the town's relationship with it. Once Mr. Medlin became the town administrator, one of the initiatives he undertook was to try to, treat the cemetery in the same way that we treat Oakwood. And so we went in there with contractors to kind of get it more in shape, clean it up, get rid of a lot of the debris that was basically growing in and up around the graves, fix sunken graves, try to get it more in line with what, a citizen at Oakwood would receive, the same kind of treatment. And so it's gonna take a long time to get it into that shape. The road, the little road that goes around the circle of the thing, it's still in really rough shape, and we just have not had the resources to dump into it to get it to the level it needs to be. So like
what is
within the
your
last
timeline?
year and a half.
What is the timeline and how often will that cemetery be maintained?
Well, currently it is maintained. We hired a contractor who maintains the lawn and stuff at Oakwood. They also do the same thing over at Cemetery on the Hill. It's gonna take some additional work, whether it's a contractor or town staff, to rework the road and get the rest of the property in shape. It suffers from drainage issues, soil and erosion control, still has some tree stumps that need to be removed. There's still some more debris that has to be dealt with. It was just our attempt, since historically it's never received much attention at all, to try to work to start getting it in shape. And as I indicated, we only started this like a year and a half ago, so we've tried to do the best we can until, resources permitted.
Okay, just wondering.
Sure. I think there was a clear effort, I believe, on Mr. Medlin's part and several council members to bring some parity between the two, which I think is entirely appropriate because it's a historic. There's a lot of folks out at the Cemetery on the Hill that, date back 1700s. A lot of famous people that were important to the town's evolution that are buried out there. So, it certainly has historical significance.
I'm just wondering, because a lot of the issues of the cemetery on here, it's my neighbor, it's right there in my
Oh,
yard.
sure, yeah.
And the drainage issues.
Serious?
Is in my yard.
Yeah,
And-
right.
And I call constantly, even the tree that's fell down in there 2 years ago, and the pathway that has been eroded has not had any attention. So I was just wondering.
Yeah. Right now, the entrance into Cemetery on the Hill is gonna be off T Camp.
Yes.
There used to be historically a back entrance from where you live.
Yes, in my
But that will no longer be operative and no longer be functional. The main entrance, in fact, we have plans to surface that road as part of the industrial park because it's a shared entrance with the industrial park to come in there, and then you go to one side, you go to Cemetery on the Hill, and then the other side, you would go actually into the industrial area.
Just wondering.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else?
Yes. I certainly have no problems with the increase in usage fees. That's very appropriate and I think very fair. But I have real issues with the fines. And it's something I have been very concerned about since I got this position, long before that. to me, fines are incredibly unfair. You know, when you say a $50 fine for illegal parking or $250, you hit me with that, you know, big deal.
Right.
You know, it's not even gonna affect me. But you hit somebody who's working at McDonald's
Mhm.
or living on the street with that fine, it's gonna be an incredible burden to them. So I have a real problem with fines that are just fixed amounts. To me, the amount should be based on a people's ability to pay.
Mhm.
Or at least some kind of alternative, so somebody who's making $10 an hour doesn't have to pay the same fine that I have to pay. And so I think we as a town really, I don't know what state law says about this, I don't know what federal law says about this, but I think it's something we need to look at and start saying that fees need to be based on people, or fines, excuse me, should be based on people's ability to pay.
I can't speak to what any statutory requirements might be regarding that concept. If you want, the council is totally, you know, if they choose to defer that element of the fee thing, and if you want, we can look into that, or you can exclude it in its entirety. That's totally council's prerogative. It just needs to be included in the motion, however you guys want to do it.
Any other questions? Okay. If not, open for a motion, and I'll make the motion, that we adopt the fee schedule, with, you know, on the contingency of advising Sean to look further into that one aspect of it, as far as, the fees of it. Fines. But the rest of it, we move to adopt the fee.
I'll second.
Moving proper second, any questions related to that?
Mayor, before we take a vote, can we, from a legality standpoint, how would you assess different fines?
Yeah, that's.
From a town standpoint, I mean, I know in the court system, judges make up the fines as far as however they go about doing it.
I think what we're proposing here is that we look into that. I don't have the answer to that. I think that's a very legitimate question. To me, the way it would be done would be based on a percentage of somebody's gross income, you know, adjusted gross. But I don't know if that's legal or not. What I am proposing, I'm assuming what the mayor has proposed, that we look into this and see what are we able to do? And then come back at a later date and try to come up with a plan that would provide for more equitable structure for fines.
I just didn't want us to get ourselves in a situation as far as how do you assess a fine through town hall, as far as whose responsibility would it be? I mean,
Well, that little piece of it, that's,
it's no different than a speeding ticket. If you get a speeding ticket, I don't think they look at your income ratio, and I agree with what you're saying, but I don't know if that's feasible for us to do that or not, that's all. So,
any other questions on that? Councilman?
Right here, when he was doing the guideline, we have what the Louisburg is already charging and what all the other, municipalities here in Franklin County are charging. Then we go over to the proposed, and our proposal fee is large.
that's because they're raising the fees.
They're
to-
raising
to
it
the-
way up, that's what I'm saying. And so really, Louisburg's are gonna have the highest fines, look like.
Well, there is a motion on the floor. We can amend that again from, you know, I'm willing to have my motion amended, and to either take that out or even to go on and include it on in there. So,
Mayor, let me clarify this. You're saying that accept of the fees, but that we would look at the fines and see what we could possibly do at a later date as the council.
Yeah, that was my thought for making that original proposal.
Well, I second that.
So that motion would be, that we adopt the fees, I mean, as proposed here, with the exception of the fines to just look at a later time, after further review, we then, move to add that at a later time.
So we are talking about all the fees or just the handicap fee?
I believe it's a whole section.
Just that little,
Just that whole section.
Oh,
It says
okay.
fines right there.
Yeah. Go along with that.
okay. Any questions from the council as to that motion? Any questions? Further? If not, you've heard the motion. It's been properly moved and second. All in favor. Now, the motion would just make it real clear that what it would be, it was this. We will adopt everything as planned here. With that one item there will be held out to a later time after further discussion and research. Okay, heard that? Motion, it's properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Thank you.